The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mindgarden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
Well, welcome to the Sandy and Toddcast. It's a bonus episode. Actually, this time Todd isn't with me. Dave is with me. So, hi, Dave.
It's the Sandy and Dave cast. Todd, where are you? I think I asked that the last time I was on. Todd, where are you?
Todd, where are you? Well, let's talk a little bit about summer, because we had an amazing summer and some of it was kind of paranormal related, right?
It always is.
Always. Well, even when we're at camp and we're just driving around, we'll, throw some equipment in the car and go to cemeteries and do our thing there. So we're always into the paranormal stuff. But we had a pretty busy summer. So let's go back real quick. We'll recap it for everybody because it was kind of neat. Back in April, we went down to the Catskills, and we've been to the Catskills several times over the years, even especially in the last few years, we've gone down there, and we always stay someplace different. But this year, we actually stayed in the Ellenville area, and that is where you used to go as a kid during the summer to the bungalow colonies. Just tell everybody what a bungalow colony is, just so that they know.
They're little cabins, and there could be anywhere from, say, a dozen to maybe 20 of them. And they were just kind of very meager, but very, very simple, almost like a hunting kind of cabin might be of today. And a lot of people from the New York City area, New Jersey, would go up to the Catskills for the summer, kind of get away from the city. Unfortunately, it was only a couple of months because you had to wait till school was done. And then when school started again around early September, obviously we were done. But a lot of families enjoyed it because it was kind of a simple getaway, and it was just a simple life, especially, well, many of them did it back in the 40s and 50s. I was there in the 60s as a little kid, and it was just a great time.
And two things about that. Number one, it was primarily the Jewish community, correct?
It was very heavily Jewish, especially coming from New York City, Brooklyn, Queens, all the boroughs, and the surrounding metro area, but a lot in New York City. And I guess many, many, many years ago, back when it probably in the earlier 1900s is really when the popularity began, and then it exploded into hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hotels and bungalow colonies as a kind of an easy getaway. There was a lot of anti-Semitism and a lot of what can we do from New York City, and obviously airplane travel wasn't plentiful in the 20s and 30s and 40s and even into the 50s. And so it was a way for families to get away and be welcomed, especially in the Catskills area where there was that heavy Jewish influence. A lot of the owners were Jewish as well. And so a lot of the people from New York City would be welcomed up there and didn't have to feel any of that distaste.
And would come up for the entire summer, right? So basically mid to late June through the end of August?
Yeah, it was the end of June after school was done. And the typical family back then, the mother didn't work and the father did. So mom and the kids would come up to the bungalows and stay for the summer. And dad would work and come up on Friday. My father did the same thing. And then he would go back late Sunday to work again back for during the week.
And, just a little known fact, you and I are from the central New York region. We're sort of halfway between Syracuse and Albany. A little bit south, I graduated from Cherry Valley Springfield Central School, which is about 20 minutes kind of, north of Cooperstown. And if you're facing Cooperstown on the map, to our west was Sharon Springs. And Sharon Springs in the late 1800s through quite a bit of the early 1900s and into the 50s and 60s was very much a tourist area. They had mineral springs. People very much believed in the mineral springs and that they would bring you health. I think one of the Roosevelts visited there quite often. And so a lot of Jewish community members were in Sharon Springs. It was sort of like, it's a little bit obviously north of the Catskills, but it kind of sits on that edge. And so a lot of the Jewish community would come to Sharon Springs during the summer and partake in the mineral springs and stay up there. There were some really large hotels like the Adler Hotel and things like that. And so they would stay there too. It was really a bustling community. And we went through there just a couple of weeks ago. We hadn't been that way in a while. And there's one beautiful bath with the mineral springs that was there. I think it was Imperial Baths. And it had fallen into ruin, but it looks like they've been doing some more work on it. So I don't know if they're trying to restore it or sort of make it into something that can be used. I'm not really sure, but it's really nice to see those things. Much like the bungalow colonies, there are some down in the Catskills that are in total disrepair and falling down. And there's others that have been repurposed and are actually, they call them estates down there. They're essentially higher end bungalow colonies, but they call them estates. And the same thing still goes on, although not as heavily as it did all those years ago, but it still goes on down there.
Right. And in the 70s, it started to kind of decay. Things changed. There was less of that problem of the anti-Semitism, and travel got a lot cheaper. Air conditioning was more plentiful. So there wasn't that escape that was needed to the Catskills quite as much. So the hotels started to fall in disrepair, and a lot of people did not go back up there. We stopped going, I think, probably 1967 or 68. And then a lot of families stopped going by the 70s and certainly the 80s. And a lot of those hotels just kind of went away. And a lot of the bungalow colonies also just closed up. But as you said, some of them have been redone, repurposed, and they realized that, well, we've still got this beautiful country kind of feel to it. And so there's still a lot of areas that have been redeveloped. And much to my surprise, a lot of the towns are actually thriving these days.
They are. And so why did I bring this up? Well, because when you're down there, now I kind of, I always deal in energy, and I use the term haunting, but it's quite haunting down there. And I don't use it loosely. There is definitely an energy around that area. It's definitely, there's and I can't, maybe you can refresh my memory. The old hotel resort that we stopped at and we wanted to go in, but we didn't because I'm sure there's cameras. But urban explorers have been in there a million times. You can find the videos right on YouTube. What's the one that we stopped at?
We weren't sure if that was Brown's or other, but there were some very, very famous ones.
Yes.
There were movies about it, like Dirty Dancing.
Oh, sure.
And, there were some very famous hotels that were extremely large, but there really were, for such a small area, the fact that there were hundreds and hundreds of hotels and hundreds of bungalow colonies. There were tiny towns that had a dozen or 15 or 20 bungalow colonies in it, sometimes more than one hotel. We went through Mountaindale. It's a nothing little town. It's a cute little town, and there's still a little main street there with a couple of shops and restaurants, but it had probably 15 or 20 bungalow colonies in it. Yeah. And if you look up bungalows of the Catskills and hotels of the Catskills, it's just incredible how many there were.
Yeah. And really the energy, if you're at all sensitive to energy, when you go down there, oh my goodness, like I can feel shifts left and right. And we took some drives. We always take drives, and we even went to one of the Jewish cemeteries to visit with your relatives. And
my great aunt, my great aunt lived up in Ellenville, and a lot of the family was around there as well. And so I had always wanted to go back to visit. We were very close to her. She was more like a grandmother to our family. And so when we would go up to visit to the Catskills, we would always go visit her. She often stayed at our house for extended times when she came down to visit, because that was a big deal back in the 60s and 70s when it was like 2.5 hours away. It seemed like an eternity for a kid. But I can remember she passed away in 1971. And so the last time I was probably at that cemetery was 71 or maybe 72. So I had looked forward to going back for maybe 50 years or so.
Sure. Just 50 years. But we did bring equipment with us.
Yes.
The only problem is that essentially we're in such a mountainous area, there is really no reception. And so the equipment didn't work quite the way we wanted. We had the spirit box. It wasn't picking up any radio signals whatsoever. So that wasn't really helping our case. And so we really didn't get anything there on the paranormal side, but it was a wonderful visit. And we also stopped at the Shanley Hotel, the world famous Shanley Hotel, which is incredibly active.
Yeah, that wasn't far.
No, we couldn't go in.
Yeah.
It was in Napanoch. We couldn't go in because Dave Schrader from the paranormal world, they were getting ready for one of his events. So we didn't go in, but I did take some pictures on the porch, and we did park across the street. And again, the spirit box wasn't working, but I was picking up on this energy. So I pulled out my pendulum and actually communicated with a woman inside the Shanley, who I believe to be one of the owners. And she and her husband lost, I think it was 3 children under the age of a year old back in the 1910s. And so I spoke with her. I got some really interesting responses. That was really cool. And so overall, it was just a really cool weekend, not just on the paranormal side of things. Because, you know, if you can't use the energy or use the radio signals, why not the pendulum? I always have good luck with the pendulum.
Right.
But it was really, really nice to be able to get down there and visit with relatives, and just feeling the energy is really cool. Like, it's cool.
Just a little further explanation on that, on the technical side. As we know, those spirit box kind of scan the FM or AM frequencies.
Right.
Well, up there's probably 2 radio stations in Ellenville, because I can remember as a kid listening to the Mets on one of the Ellenville stations. But around there, because it's so mountainous, there's not a lot of radio signals. So if it's depending on radio signals to help out that spirit box, you're just not going to get a whole lot there.
Yeah, we were getting 0 of anything on them. So that was kind of sad, but we did get some interaction, which was really cool. And it was rainy, and I'm wondering if the storminess kind of helped us in that matter. Not sure. It was, though, the pendulum to the rescue that day. So that was super cool. Then, now that was in April. Then in June, we went back to Vermont. No, I'm sorry. I take that back. We didn't do Vermont. We did. That's right. We did Vermont for a weekend. The following weekend, we ended up going to Gettysburg. Now, everybody's heard me talking about Gettysburg on the show over the summer, so I'm not going to go too much into that. But that was, as always, it was our 4th time. And it was absolutely amazing. As a matter of fact, we just saw a reel today on Facebook of the Halloween parade they have in Gettysburg. And I'm like, why didn't I know there's a Halloween parade in Gettysburg? So I said, we should go down there for Halloween next year. So we might go down for Halloween next year. But that was always phenomenal. I got, I guess you could say, a little more than I bargained for with my end of the visit this year. It was incredibly thought-provoking, a little unsettling, and as usual, the energy The energy there for me is always something I can deal with. It's strong, it's heavy, but, my experience in the orphanage was something, I'm not going to say I've never felt anything. Well, I will say it. I've never felt anything quite like what I experienced in the Gettysburg Orphanage. I mean, I felt some darker energy before, some heavier energy, some jerks. I'm not going to go so far as to ever say a dark entity because I haven't. And I think that's a very rare thing, is to find a dark energy or a dark entity. But when I say dark energy, I just mean a heavier energy, something that is, I don't know, just a little more intimidating or wants to be intimidating. There was a lot of residual and intelligence in there. I had two experiences in there. And it was just a learning experience for me. I'll put it that way. I've had many experiences over the years and I've learned from all of them. And that was a definite one. So Gettysburg was something. Gettysburg was really something.
And a side note, just to explain, we take these little kind of weekend jaunts or extended weekend jaunts and we make it a family affair, which means the dog comes with us. So I stay with the dog in those kind of cases. So that's why when Sandy's talking about going to the orphanage in this case, I didn't go because I was probably watching a hockey game or something with the dog.
You were. And you know what's funny about it is, like, I've always said, to myself, if we're going to do it together, then I don't want to do it. But I've kind of, as I get older, I kind of realize that I don't have to, if and not to say that you didn't want to do it, but I was supposed to do it with Todd, first of all, and he didn't end up coming to Gettysburg. But we did have the dog. And so I thought to myself, do I really want to miss out on this? Do I have to have you? I don't mean that in a bad way, Dave. But I'm like, do I have to be with you for it? Or can I just do it on my own? I've never done much on my own like that. And it was really a first step for me. A lot of people are fine with dining out by themselves or going to a movie by themselves. I've never done that before.
Right. Although we have done that in other places when we have investigated as a group,
yes,
when there's others. So what we'll do is I'll sit out one night and babysit the dog. And then the next night, if there's 2 nights, then Sandy stays or she goes part of the day and then I go for the rest.
Because we usually do at the end of our investigations with apps. Adirondack Park Paranormal Society. At the end of our investigations, we usually have a seance. So I tend to be there for the seance. So, for example, if it's Friday and Saturday that we're investigating, I'll go the first half on Friday, you go the second half, and then you go the first half on Saturday, and I'll come in late on Saturday and finish up with the seance. It's that kind of thing. And that works for us. That really works for us, So, so I did that. And I was pretty proud of myself. It would have been nice to have you there considering the experiences I had. But I did it. I got through it. It took a while to process it. I'm still amazed. It's sort of like the time that the heavier presence, the darker presence down in the basement of that one tavern we investigated, was throwing things.
I got to experience that one. That one was my favorite.
That's for sure. So, that one, at least we were together for. This one I was on my own. And being a psychic medium, it kind of just, what's the word I want, Dave? It kind of multiplies the effect that you have. It's not just, we're experiencing it, but now I'm experiencing it almost personally. So it was a lot, but I'm grateful for it. I'm always grateful for a new experience like that because I feel like it teaches me things. And if anybody's interested in hearing about that, just go back through the last few of our episodes and I tell the whole story about what happened to me at the orphanage. And so we did Gettysburg. Then we went down to Owego, Owego, New York, back in July. That was amazing. We stayed at the, Parkview. The 1868 Parkview Inn in Owego. And it did not disappoint. It was beautiful. It was historic. It was active. And I tell you how I know it was active, because we had Spike with us and Dave was up in the room, and I decided to go traipsing around downstairs while everything was closed at about midnight, and felt someone or something staring at me. It was a very weird feeling. So I know there was somebody there. I know it was active. We actually did the spirit box together, you and I, in the room that we stayed in. And I put the headphones on and I listened, and you asked the questions, and we got some things that really actually were intelligent answers to the questions that you asked.
Right. Yep. That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good place.
That was really good. So we did a lot of fun stuff. We took August off because we did an extra extended camp week. And then in September, we went out to the Geneva area of New York, out in the Finger Lakes, and spent a weekend there. So we were really busy this summer. Super busy. But we did a lot of cool paranormal stuff, and just enjoyed the summer. I think with everything going on right now, everybody needs to practice a little bit of self-care. Be vigilant. Be aware of everything that's going on around you. Understand it. Educate yourself. But at the same time, make sure that you're taking care of yourself as well, right? And, enjoy yourself too. There's a lot of really heavy stuff. And when this all first started going down at the beginning of the year, I was horrific. I was terrible. I was taking on everything, and I didn't know how to control it as an empath, like a strong empath. Like, you take on this stuff, and I couldn't control it at first. And finally, I got my wits about me, and I started to compartmentalize things and work through it. And that's when I decided, you know what? We're going to do all of that stuff. We're going to do what we have to do, but we're going to take care of ourselves too. So that's what we did. We really had a great summer and focused on our community and us, right?
It's always a fun time. Yeah, we had a great time.
Yeah, we had a lot of stuff going on. We have a lot of stuff planned for next year already. So we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. So I'm just very grateful. And it was a thought-provoking summer. It was a fun summer. And it was kind of an adventurous summer. A little courageous for me to do a couple things on my own, and it was really cool. So I'm really happy about it.
But generally speaking, they're kind of laid back, low-key, simple. We don't have a concert planned with it. It's just kind of a getaway for a weekend, and we like the Airbnb kind of idea because we can take the dog with us.
Right.
And they're just so roomy, and they're quiet and private, and usually in a nice historic area. And we just have those simple kind of ideas.
That's right. That's right. So real quick, Dave, before we wrap up, I want to mention really quick this Ed Gein thing on Netflix, okay? Because I want everybody to know I'm not happy about it. And I tell you why. So it's called Monster, the Ed Gein story. And for those of you who don't know who Ed Gein was, please take a minute and just pop it into Google and you'll hear the story. You and Todd and I in 2021 actually went to Plainfield, Wisconsin. It's about an hour and a half from where Todd lives. And we took a day trip out there. And we went out there and we visited where Ed Gein and his family are buried. And we drove around. We went to the hardware store where he murdered one of his victims. And we also went to the land where his family's homestead was on. The house, after he died, after he was arrested, the house was burned down. So that's no longer on the property, but I did, as Todd will happily point out, I did trespass, and I went into the property because I wanted to see how often in my life am I ever going to get to see that in real life. So I went in there, and so we had a great, again, thought-provoking visit in Plainfield, Wisconsin, the three of us.
Including the cemetery where they are.
That's right. That was an experience in and of itself. And so we know the story inside and out. We understand it. I was so excited to see this drama series, Monster, the Ed Gein story on Netflix. And we watched, maybe 10 minutes of it?
That's about it. I think it was like a six-part story is what it was supposed to be on Netflix. And I remember reading about it very recently, and I let you know about it, that it was going to be on Netflix. and we still have Netflix, although we don't watch it much. And so we were kind of looking forward to it, but it just, the pacing just didn't seem to be there. The characters,
the actors didn't match. Nothing matched, and that just. Let me leave everybody with these parting words. If you want to learn the whole story, watch a documentary. Go to YouTube, watch the documentary. Monster, the Ed Gein story, is a horror story, I guess you could say. If you want the entertainment value, sure, I'm sure it's fine. I think I'm a little too invested, and so are you, in it to find it interesting, because we know the whole story and we experience the locations. But it's I'm sure it's a very good movie. But it is a drama series. And it's based on Ed Gein, but it's not really, it just was not my cup of tea.
Yeah, it was a little too Hollywood. And we've watched a lot of crime dramas and Datelines and 2020s. And most of those are pretty well straightforward, and they don't kind of lay it on thick. This one, in that brief time that we actually watched it, they were kind of getting away from the story at times and just laying it on a little too thick.
I'll give you one example real quick, and then we'll sign off. But Laurie Metcalf, who was Roseanne's sister in Roseanne, the comedy show, love her, absolutely love her. She played Augusta Gein. And first of all, I think she was completely... Okay, when we were in Plainfield and we went to the cemetery... and
she played the mother, by the way.
Right, Augusta.
Just further explain.
Augusta. Yeah. I had some sort of interaction with her when I touched her stone. Laurie Metcalf is, to me, knowing how I felt during that interaction, is nothing like Augusta was. And she doesn't really project it. I'm not saying anything about Laurie Metcalf as an actress. I'm just saying I don't know that that was the perfect fit if you were trying to go for authenticity. If you are going for kind of a horror movie, sure, why not? But I just didn't feel like she was domineering enough, nasty enough. I don't know. But
you know what it kind of reminded me of? Like watching a play instead of watching a TV show or a TV movie or a movie. It was very much like they were on stage and they were playing to the audience rather than being very natural about it.
Yeah, I agree. So again, if you like horror movies and you don't know much about Ed Gein's story, then you may really enjoy this movie. I personally it's just not my thing. I'd rather watch the documentaries because it tells exactly what happened without the drama of a movie. So, I give it, I can't even give it stars at this point because we only watched 10 minutes of it. But so anyways, so check it out. If you like movies, go for it. I think that you might really like it. If you want something authentic, I say go watch the documentaries. There's so many great documentaries out there on Ed Gein. And he truly was a monster. Okay. All right. Thanks, Dave, for hanging out with me for a while.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome.
All right.
Todd, come back soon.
Yes, Todd. Hopefully, Todd and I will be back very, very soon. And now that things are quieting down for the fall and winter. So, everybody, have a great Halloween. Love you so, so much. And thanks for hanging out with us. Even if we're not as regular as we used to be, we're still here. And always feel free to message us or send us questions, anything at all that you'd like to, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
We make podcasting easy. Mindgarden Media can get you going on your very own podcast. With many years in the broadcast and audio industry, Mindgarden Media can edit, fully produce, and provide all the web distribution services. We're podcasters too, so we'll guide you every step of the way to a professional-sounding podcast production. For information, email the mindgardenmedia@gmail.com, the mindgardenmedia@gmail.com, or check us out on Facebook.